So hi, very good evening. So now we are in the second class of the art and culture. So the first class was introduction, and then we talked about the Indus Valley civilization. So I don't know that in which all batches I have covered the ancient and medieval part, but if it has not been done, so specifically that there would be more coverage related to the Indus Valley civilization. So now we'll be starting with that. Today we'll be starting with the Mauryan age, and here there is a disclaimer for you that please be attentive. There are a little bit of more details over here, and then more intricacies are involved over here. So rather than jumping into the question mode, first give the time to understand the concepts which I'm going to discuss today. And later on, you can put up your questions then. So later on, you can put up your questions if at all, if you haven't understood. Done? So this topic, that Mauryan architecture, Mauryan art, it is one of the very important topic as far as the exam is concerned. That prelim stage of exam, there were many questions from this section, and similarly, at the main stage of exam, we have seen questions repeatedly coming from this particular section. Last time when there was a mains question, so it was on the stupa structure in 2016. In fact, that I take pride in this, that I predicted in that year that this year I have a hunch feeling that this question is going to come, and this evolutionary question is going to come. I was elated to see that it was there in the paper, but this doesn't happen all the time. It was just hunch of 1 year. I thought that I could have thought something bigger for myself, that this is my hunch feeling that this year I'm going to become a millionaire. Then, but I didn't thought in that way. आज तक दुख मना रहा हूँ इस बात का. So let's get back to the Mauryan art. I'm writing millionaire. I'm so sorry for that. This is the thought which is going with me. Just give me a minute, a little bit. So, Mauryan art. So, see that whoever has sent the question, it's a norm. I think that you guys have understood that. Please don't put up questions on the response screen. Any question, then ठीक है? बाद में questions. अभी पहले disclaimer दिया ना, that try to understand that what I'm going to talk today. ठीक है? So पहले समझने की कोशिश करो. So listen, that when it comes to Mauryan art, then, so I will go deeper into the Mauryan art, but before that, I just need to tell you some of the background. Moreover, what is this background related to? Basically Buddhism. Here we are going to talk about. So Mauryan art is very synonymous to the Buddhist art. Then it is closely associated with the Buddhism, because the followers that one of the initial followers of the Buddhism includes the monarchs from the Mauryas. So very first thing that I need to mention about that, how come this association of the Mauryan monarchs with the Buddhism happened then, and there is a tradition that we need to talk about. This has been a question in 2016 and 2020 also. So 2 times that there were 2 terms which came from this topic that in the prelims examination. So let's look at this. Now, so in the Mauryan art, I'm not discussing about the art. So I'm not discussing about the art, but I am mentioning here this tradition. Then, so tradition. So in this tradition, Shramana tradition, now listen to this one, that it goes back to somewhere in the Vedic period. And I hope that in your batches, this particular ancient and medieval is not covered. So it goes back to the Vedic ages, and particularly the later Vedic ages then. So in the later Vedic ages, so there was this tradition which started in the later Vedic ages, which is called as the Shramana tradition. Many a times it is also referred as Shraman movement. So Shraman tradition or movement, then both are same. Now, what is this movement all about? So this movement or tradition was all about opposing the decadent things and basically some of the tenets of the Vedic culture. So they were opposing the Vedic culture, few of the things which they did not felt that is good for the society. So the people who were the proponents of the Shramana tradition or Shramana movement, they opposed some of the practices which were there in the Vedic society. So for example, that what all practices, even if today when we look at, so we can say that these all are the practices which doesn't goes well with the human dignity, human values, so that can be admonished. So they directed their movement against some of the practices of the Vedic period, which includes, so first of all, listen, it includes that the complex rituals of the Vedic period, please don't write, understand, dominance of the Brahmins, superiority of the Brahmins. Then they rejected this Varna system. They also rejected the caste theory which was emerging. So caste and Varna, this was rejected by them. Then they also talked about the upliftment of the backward classes and particularly women also. Then they were also very much against the animal sacrifice which was happening indiscriminately during the Vedic period. So they were against these all kind of practices which has emerged in the Vedic society. This movement was the Shramana movement, and this movement is said to have given origin to the two most important religious reform movements of India, that was Buddhism and Jainism. So Buddhism and Jainism are considered as the two branches of the Shramana movement. Then, so two branches of the Shramana movement, and since it started, that Buddhism and Jainism, initially it was not a religion, and that's how any religion starts, that one particular person talks about a reform, and then there happens many followers, and then these followers also talk about that reform, and all of a sudden that religion, that from that religion one sect emerges, and from that sect a religion emerges. Then, so this is how that these were in fact that Jainism and Buddhism, they were the branches of the you can say that they were reform movements within Hinduism, but they later on developed into a specific religions. Then, so specific religions. So this is what is Shramana movement. Now, another thing that I need to tell you, that meaning of these words also. In art and culture subject, you specifically need to know the meanings of the words, because many a times UPSC in prelims examination, they will give you the word and they would ask you that what is the particular or specific meaning of this word. So when you go by this word Shramana, it is a Sanskrit word. Then later on got used in the Prakrit and Pali also, but Shramana is a Sanskrit word. And meaning of this word, let me write. Meaning is one who strives. Meaning was one who strives or toils. One who strives or toils. Then, so this is one such that this is the definition and also the meaning. Moreover, now how the Mauryas are connected to this Shramana tradition. So going by that, this tradition became very strong by the 6th century BC, when these two religions were in full-fledged mode. And then after the death of the Buddha and Mahavir, further the spread of these two religions continued. Then, and these two religions, not only their spread continued, but they continued, its spread was mostly based in the Shramana tradition. So many kingdoms and monarchies, they were patronizing the Shramana. When I say that they are patronizing Shramana, it does not mean that patronizing just one, that Buddhism, yeah, Jainism. They are patronizing all the branches of the Shramana. So these dynasties, they started to patronize Shramana tradition, Shramana movement, and moreover, When Asoka accepted the Buddhism, so he also continued the practice of patronizing the Shramana. But listen, the father of the Asoka, Bindusar, then, and then his father, Chandragupta Maurya. So both were also the followers of the Shramana, then, and both of them also patronized the Shramana, but some other branch. So for example, that Chandragupta Maurya, he accepted Jainism. He was patronizing Jainism. Then Bindusar, who was the son of the Chandragupta Maurya, he was an Ajivika, patronized Ajivika and then Jainism also. Asoka, when born, so follower of Ajivika, patronized Ajivika in the first half of his his kingship, and then the second half, the second birth of the Asoka after the Kalinga war, then he started patronizing Buddhism also. So their association was very long with the Shramana tradition, and that's how. At this point of time, when Asoka started to patronize the Shramana tradition, so then many architectural wonders happened at this point of time, and many architectural initiatives, art initiatives which happened at this point of time, which has left an indelible impact on the Indian cultural history. Okay? So please now, you write, you can mention this as a heading, that Shramana tradition or movement. Then you write meaning also, one who strives or toils. So after writing this one, please write those words about the Shramana tradition. So you write, Shramana was anti-Vedic movement. Anti-Vedic movement. Shramana was anti-Vedic movement. Full stop. The proponents of Shramana, Shramana rejected complex Brahminical, complex Vedic rituals, not Brahminical, you're right, complex Vedic rituals. Let me mention on the board also. So complex Vedic rituals, Brahminical supremacy, Brahminical supremacy, Varna, caste, and they favored upliftment of backward classes, upliftment of backward classes and women. Upliftment of backward classes and women. Full stop. Then further you mention, they were highly critical of animal sacrifice, highly critical of animal sacrifice. They were highly critical of animal sacrifice, which was happening indiscriminately, during Vedic period. during Vedic period. Full stop. Then next you write, it is said that Buddhism, Jainism, Ajivika were the branches of Buddhism, Jainism, Ajivika were the branches of shaman tradition. Were the branches of shaman tradition because they continued that particular practice of opposing those decadent customs which has emerged during the Vedic period. Then, so Buddhism, Jainism and Ajivika were the branches of the Shamana tradition. Then further you mention, full stop, you can change paragraph and then you mention Maurya rulers right from the beginning patronized this word would be used often, so you see the spelling if you don't know. Patronized, right from the beginning patronized Shramana tradition. Full stop. Then you write, during the time of Asoka, or tenure, not time, during the tenure of Asoka, there was huge growth in art and architecture, associated with Shramana tradition. Then, so this is what is about the Shramana tradition or Shraman tradition. We do call Shamana, but it is Shraman tradition. This is how you pronounce. Then, so as I have said to you that from this class onwards, that particularly this art and culture class onwards, we will be looking at the images also wherever it is required. So I have brought those all images and I will make it a habit most of the time. What happens with me that I forget my digital device to bring to the classes and then I give an excuse to you, aaj leke nahi aaya hu. So today I was remembering that I have to come up with this one. So I'll show you these all things later on, but let's get into the architectural things associated with the this particular Shramana tradition and then also the Maurya age. So now I will outline that what all things we are going to read in this one, in the Maurya art. So in the Maurya art, as far as the art is concerned, so first we will start with the cave. Then that when it comes to the art, so first one, we'll see the caves. Then second, I'll talk about the pillars. Second would be the pillars. Third is the one which is the most important, stupa. And here so much of elaboration is there. So stupa. And fourth, we will look at the sculpture. And the last one would be the pottery of the Maurya period. So these all are the architectural thing or art related thing that we are going to see. So let's begin with the very first one. That is so you don't need to list this one. I just wrote because you must know that what we are going to see today. So first one you write Mauryan cave. Mauryan cave. So first heading is the Mauryan cave. Now listen, when it comes to the Mauryan cave, so they are perhaps I'm not saying it with the conclusivity, but perhaps they are the first example of the man-made caves in Indian subcontinent. Then we do have many cases of the natural caves in India, and in fact one of the finest natural caves where so many things were preserved even from the stone ages. So for example, that Bhimbhetka, then Bhimbhetka is one of the oldest and moreover natural cave where so many things, human related things were preserved, like art forms, like paintings, these all kind of thing. But when it comes to man-made caves, so we have not come across any such example where some person has created a cave and then there was something written record left after. So it is only in the case of the Mauryas that we find that not only caves were created, but the records are also intact, that what was the purpose and who created. So that's how we say with word attached, perhaps. So perhaps they were the first man-made caves in India. So first man-made caves in Indian subcontinent. Now, another thing with this cave, that why Asoka particularly and then many other Mauryan rulers, they were patronizing the cave. So we will look at the purpose, but equally important is look at the structure. Then so equally important is look at the structure. So what I will do, see, in exam, you are not going to paste the image that you will be seeing over here. That's but for sure. And in exam, when you are getting art and culture questions, you will have to create an image. It is implicit in the question that if the question is of the nature where they have asked you about the Mauryan cave or some of the kind of stupa or whatever, so then it is implicit in the question that you will have to create the image. If it is a 10 marker question and if you are not creating the image, so obviously 1 mark you will be getting less, even if you have written all the details. So 1 number बहुत होता है इस एग्जाम में, ठीक है? 5 नंबर में रैंक 100 से 500 में चली जाती है. This is what I have seen in many years. Then that 5 नंबर में बहुत लंबा रैंक का डिफरेंस हो जाता है, and that would be too costly for you. So when you know that there would be art and culture question, and in this section, if anything is coming from that particular architecture section or the section which demands an image, you must create it. So what we are going to do, I'll be creating one image here, ठीक है? थोड़ा सा आदत बन जाएगी. You will also be creating in your class notes, and then images are always there to see, ठीक है? उसको देखने के लिए हमेशा है. So that images we'll see later. So let's talk about that Mauryan caves, that how they looked like. So when it comes to the Mauryan caves, so they were quite decorated from outside. When we see the entrances of the Mauryan caves, so entrance of the Mauryan caves were decorated, and see that you cannot compare the decoration of the Mauryan cave of that time to the decoration of any such architectural initiative happening at this time. So there is a temporal and contextual difference between the periods. So there is a one phrase which you must keep in mind when you are writing the history questions or when you are writing the art and culture answers, that only comparables can be compared. जिसको compare कर सकते हैं उसको compare करना है. Comparables means that same, for example, that if I have to compare a painting or compare a particularly one such cave architecture. So I will be comparing the modern with modern. Then that कि कर्नाटका में क्या बना, यूपी में क्या बना, then महाराष्ट्र में क्या बना, in the same temporal context. Then, but when you are going to compare something in the 21st century and something which was made in 3rd century BC, so then on the basis of that saying कि modern वाला बहुत अच्छा है, ठीक है, उसमें ये features हैं, उस time पे तो बहुत गंदा वाला था, so that is not justified. You will not get a marks. Then see that you will have to write your answer in the context, and you will have to write according to the context. This disclaimer and this particular suggestion why I am giving you, because I will be discussing one question in the painting section where this type of demand was there. So be assured that in these classes, art and cultural questions which have come in the previous years, I will be discussing those questions also, so that you can get insight that how you will be writing answers in this particular section. So let's get back to this one. So when it comes to Mauryan caves, so Mauryan caves, they are quite decorated from outside, and from inside caves were highly polished also. Then, so for example, that when we look at the entrance, then, so when I look at the entrance of the Mauryan cave, so this entrance has a semicircular facade shape. Let me create it. This kind of shape entrance is there, then, so this type of shaped entrance is there, then, and then not only this type of entrance is there, but at the same point of time, some designs are also created in this entrance, then, so intricate designs were created in the entrance, then, so these intricate designs and if art has been dead in you, try to make it alive. Then, so this is one part. Moreover, they also, what they did in this particular architecture, in this particular entrance architecture, so reticular panels were also created. What is reticular panel? So basically, Hindi में क्या बोलते हो? जाली, ठीक है? So reticular panels were also created in this one, and that's what you call jali in Hindi. I don't know in other languages what is the word for the jali, but this kind of jalis were also created in the caves. Then, so not entire area, but top area, you can see that little bit of reticular things would also be there. And then the entrance. So then the entrance. So this kind of structure you can see in the Mauryan cave entrance. This I am calling as a semicircular facade. Then this you can label it as, and देखो ये भी बहुत important है, when you are creating an image you must label it. Creating an image without labeling it will not fetch any mark. So this is reticular panel, and then this what you can say as a entrance. So please make it. Then please write, mention, perhaps they were the first man-made caves, perhaps they were the first man-made caves in Indian subcontinent. First man-made caves in Indian subcontinent. Then further you mention in Indian subcontinent, full stop. Mauryan caves were polished from inside. Mauryan caves were polished from inside. And intricately decorated from outside. Intricately decorated from outside. Intricately decorated from outside. Full stop. Then further you mention the entrance was shaped in semicircular facade, that is written over there, so you can copy that. Semicircular facade. So entrance was shaped in semicircular facade with reticular panel, reticular panel, reticular panel, reticular panel, and sometimes with the sculptures of elephant, and sometimes with the sculptures of elephant, sometimes with the sculptures of elephant. Then sculptures of elephant. Full stop. Vikas, screen mirror on. Then further you mention. So you have written this one. We have not discussed about the purpose. So I said to you about the purpose. So purpose is, the purpose of these, just let me check that if a screen mirror is on. एक मिनट रुक जाओ. इस पे on नहीं है. Connect करो. क्यों नहीं आ रहा? यार कनेक्टेड तो है इससे. स्विच ऑफ करके ऑन करो. So now you can see this image. So the design that you have created, a little bit of difference could be there that what we are creating on the page. So what is really in the image. So this shape, you can see that semicircular facade. Then you have this sculptures of elephant. As you can see, there is a reticular panel. In fact, it is also a reticular panel. And moreover, this is the entrance. So this is how it looked like. Then, so this is the example, one example that of the design. Now we are going into the purpose of this cave and also the examples of this cave. So when it comes to the purpose of this cave, listen carefully, that since it was made in the first half of the Ashoka's kingship, so majority of these caves, that they were made during the tenure of the Ashoka, and later on his grandson Dasarath also created some of the caves. Then, so these caves were basically, they were meant for providing shelter to the Ajivika monk, not to the Jaina monk, not to the Buddhist monk, but for the Ajivika monk. So the purpose of these caves were, it was shelter for the Ajivika monk. So please mention that the purpose of these caves, the purpose of these caves was to provide shelter to Ajivika monk. Was to provide shelter to Ajivika monk. Ajivika monk. Ajivika. So now you write the examples. This is one example, Lomas Rishi cave. Spelling is clear over here. So I am showing you the examples also at the caves also. So you can see that these all caves. So Lomas Rishi cave, in fact this is the one which you have seen in the first page. So you write Lomas Rishi cave, I would write location also, that where it is located. Just 1 minute. So Lomas Rishi cave, it is located near Gaya in Bihar. Lomas Rishi cave near Gaya in Bihar. Then second example you write Nagarjuni cave, again the same place, Gaya. In fact that hills you can write. Though hills they are closer to each other. There is a one Barabar hill and there is a one Nagarjuni hill. So Nagarjuni cave is in Nagarjuni hill and Lomas Rishi cave, this one. So you can write in the Barabar hills, Gaya. this color is not visible. Let me use another one. So Barabar Hills गया, and both are very closer to each other. 1 से 1.5 किलोमीटर के अंदर में है, ठीक है. So both are very closer to each other. Lomas Rishi cave in Barabar Hills गया, Nagarjuni caves in the Nagarjuni. Then one more example you write, which I have not kept in this one. In fact, in Nagarjuni there are Sudama caves. So example, you write Sudama caves. These all are in Gaya. ठीक है. किधर गया? Bihar. So these all are in Bihar. Then this one also you write as an example. Please mention Dhauli cave and Dhauli elephant sculpture. Dhauli cave and Dhauli elephant sculpture. And Dhauli is in Odisha. In fact, this was a question in 2000, I think in 2014. Then, so in 2014, this was the question related to the Dhauli elephant sculpture which was created. It belongs to which period? Particularly, it belongs to the Maurya period. Maurya were the one who created this. So, Dhauli elephant sculpture. There used to be one cave, but that cave is no more in the today's time. So, this is about the cave architecture of the this period. Then now we will move to the next one, that is the Mauryan pillars. So let's move to the Mauryan pillar. Mauryan pillars. So one of the very important initiatives right from the beginning of the Maurya's rule was erection of the pillars. Then, so these pillars, we will be talking about that, their design, their structure, but at the same point of time, it is very important to know the purpose of these pillars, then that why they were erected. Then, so why they were erected, what was the purpose of these pillars? So let's listen to this one, that Mauryan pillars. So first of all, let's create a image of this. Then, so when it comes to the image, just give me a little bit of time. So there has to be a long shaft in this case. Okay? So a long shaft in this case. Then this place, there was a bell structure. Then at this place, at the top of this base, you can create a circular structure this way. And on top of this circular structure, you will have to create one animal for the representative purpose. So, not exactly like how animal look like, but symbolic way you can create an animal. Symbolic way you can create an animal. So this is structure. This is shaft. Then this is bell capital. This one is abacus. And this one would be crowning animal. If black is visible to you, if it is not visible to you, I'll change the color. But I hope it is visible to you. Few other things also I need to create in this particular example. So in this particular example, you can create one circle and many spokes in this one. and there would be some symbols over here, some symbols over here. So that I will mention later on. So I hope black color is visible to you. Then, so now this is structure you create. Let's have a discussion on something else also related to pillars. So when the Mauryas were the ruler in India, and you know that they were the one who controlled the vast territory in the Indian subcontinent. In fact, nobody as compared to the Mauryas controlled that much territory in Indian subcontinent. So Mauryas were big rulers. At the same point of time, they're contemporary in the world and in our own closer vicinity. In Persia, there was this Achaemenid Empire. Listen to this carefully. So Achaemenid Empire was there, and in India, Mauryan Empire is there. So one such similarity between the two empires at this point of time, which were contemporary of each other, so both of them were erecting pillars. Both of them were known for the construction of the pillars. So both of them were known for the construction of pillars. And so obviously when the two big dynasties, two big kingdoms are there and they are both are constructing the pillars, so obviously there would be comparison. There is bound to be comparison. So in this comparison, we need to look at that what were the something upper edge things related to the Mauryan pillars. So when it comes to the height, listen, when it comes to the height, so Mauryan pillars were quite higher than the Achaemenid pillars. The average height of the Mauryan pillar, average I'm saying, not the maximum. So average height of the Mauryan pillar was 40 feet. But on the other hand, these other ones, which I said to you, Achaemenid pillars, so they were hardly 10 to 15 feet. So hardly 10 to 15 feet. So they were not that tall and Mauryan pillars were quite tall. This is one. Moreover, Mauryan pillars were monolith. Monolith meaning that created from a single stone. So Mauryan pillars were monolith created from a single stone in one go. Then एक ही बार में बना दिया ऊपर से नीचे तक. So created in a one go. But otherwise in Achaemenid the pillars were created as pieces and they were joined together. So suppose that there is a 10 feet pillar, so they have created 2 feet 5 pieces and then later on they joined the 5 pieces. That's another difference. Then when it comes to the polishing, so both were quite polished. Mauryan pillars were highly polished and then Achaemenid pillars were also polished. But final thing, when it comes to the craftsmanship meaning that those intricate designs which are created on the top and these all places, so these all designs were quite better than the Achaemenid pillars. Achaemenid pillars, and that's why Mauryan pillars is considered as that they were the finest of the pillars of that time. So please mention that during the tenure of Maurya, sure, I would not use black color. Okay? So it's better to use black color on white background. So further you write that during the tenure of Mauryas, their contemporary in Achaemenid, and Achaemenid, particularly Persian region. So Achaemenid also constructed pillars. Their contemporary in Achaemenid also constructed pillars. Whose comparison is as below. So comparison you write, one side you write Achaemenid and another side you write Mauryan pillar. So Achaemenid pillar, one side Achaemenid pillar and another side Mauryan pillar. Then in Achaemenid pillar you mention average height 10 to 12 feet. Here you write average height 40 feet. See that even if you don't remember the figure कि 10 से 12 है या 40 है, बस इतना याद रखो. Mauryan pillars were quite taller than these pillars. Then one more difference which I didn't mention when I was discussing with you. So then Mauryan pillars were always erected in open. Then so here you write always erected in open. Not necessarily in open, but mainly used inside the buildings. Mainly used inside the building. मतलब already indoor, these were kind of indoor pillars, you can say, and these are the outdoor pillars. That's very precisely, that is very correct. Then, so this would be the outdoor pillars and these would be the indoor pillars. Then next difference, Mauryan में लिखो, right in the Mauryan pillars were monolith. Mauryan pillars were monolith and you can write in brackets created with single stone. Created with single stone. Then in Achaemenian mention created in many pieces and later joined So created in many pieces and later joined. Then next you mention both were highly polished. So this is once where they are at the same page, highly polished, both the sides you write highly polished. Highly polished. And then finally, next one you write so here you will be writing in this one that inferior in craftsmanship. That's you write in continuous fashion. So here you write inferior in craftsmanship. And quite superior in craftsmanship. Quite superior in craftsmanship. So this is what is about this particular comparison. अभी comparison ही पढ़ा है, ठीक है? So now we'll move into the examples also and then purpose also. So let's talk about the purpose first and then we'll move to the examples then. So when it comes to the purpose of the Mauryan pillars, so there were two phases of the purpose of the Mauryan pillar. One before the Kalinga War and one is after the Kalinga War. So when we talk about the purpose of the pillar, so one purpose we will mention before Kalinga War and one is after Kalinga War, because purpose got changed after the Kalinga War. Why so? Because before the Kalinga War, which happened in 269 BC. Yes, so 269, if I'm correct. No, 261 BC. I'm wrong. So in 261 BC, when Kalinga War happened, So before that, the Asoka's policy was that he was going after the military annexation, annexing those all kingdoms. So much of killing and massacre was there at that point of time. But soon after the kind of killing which happened in the Kalinga War, he decided to abandon this policy of the military annexation, and moreover, not only abandon this policy of military annexation, but at the same point of time, he followed policy of the socio-cultural annexation, and he accepted the faith Buddhism. So accordingly, he also changed the purpose of these pillars. So mention as a heading, purpose of the pillars. Purpose of Mauryan pillars. And in this purpose itself, you write a subheading before Kalinga War. Before Kalinga War. So before Kalinga War, this purpose of this Mauryan pillar was that to serve the imperial ceremonies, to kind of that issue the imperial ceremonies, orders or commands. What is this imperial ceremony, orders or commands? Basically, suppose that there is a one area or area that where I am. Then, so if Raja has to give me some instruction, or Raja has to inform something about the kingdom, some rules, some regulations, some taxes, what kind of behavior is expected from my side as a citizen, not citizen, as a subject in the kingdom. I wrongly said there is no citizen in the kingdoms. Citizens are only there in the nations, not the kingdom. So we were subjects. So for his subjects, instructions used to be there. Then, and these instructions could be about the behavior, about the taxes, then about some kind of announcement related to the that some event is happening. So for that, these pillars were erected, and closer to the pillars, instructions were written. Then, so instructions were written. And these pillars were erected, they were made so high so that people can see it from the distance. And when they see from the distance, they come to the place, they read the instructions, or they will be read out instructions, and then accordingly they need to behave. Then, so the purpose was to serve the imperial ceremony, orders or commands. Then, so Raja ke Adesh ko Pahuchana. This was the purpose of the pillar. So you write before Kalinga War. So purpose was to serve the imperial ceremony, order or command. Order or command. And one more purpose in this one only, that also to celebrate the victory. Then, so to commemorate the victory. So second one, to commemorate the victory. To commemorate the victory. So some area which Asoka has annexed, then, or any other ruler of the Maurya has annexed. So then, this particular pillar is also the symbol of the celebration. Then, so it is also the symbol of celebration or mark of the victory, that see that now you guys, you are my subjects. Earlier you were subjects of somebody else's, but now you are my subject. Then, so this is the purpose of the Mauryan pillar before Kalinga War. Now, after Kalinga War, next you mention after Kalinga War. So what I said to you, after Kalinga War, Asoka accepted Buddhism. So many things about the Asoka, they got absorbed, or completely he changed his personality, changed his life, changed his behavior. So after Kalinga War, there was so much of remorse in the Ashoka that what kind of heinous act he has committed by killing lakhs of people in the Kalinga War. So from here onwards, he is accepting Buddhism, and first purpose, we will be writing in this one that to celebrate the important life events of the Buddha. So to celebrate important life events of the Buddha. And second, first was you see that first we have written to serve the imperial ceremony. Now, to serve के बाद change हो जाएगा to propagate the dhamma. And what is dhamma? The moral ethical code of conduct. Then, so moral ethical code of conduct, dhamma. So propagation of dhamma was one purpose, and to celebrate the important life events of Buddha. So please mention very first one in this one, to celebrate important life events of Buddha. Important life events of Buddha. And second, to propagate Dhamma. To propagate Dhamma, and please write the meaning of Dhamma in brackets. Moral ethical code of conduct. Moral ethical code of conduct. Code of conduct. Moral ethical code of conduct. Then, so this is about the purpose of the Mauryan pillars. Then, so purpose of the Mauryan pillars. Now, examples. So please write quickly. I'll get back to the examples. So please mention examples and look at the very first one. Okay. This 1 minute. So first one is the Sarnath pillar. Sarnath pillar. And few things you will have to, you write this pillar, which is Sarnath is in UP. Sarnath is in UP and very closer to Varanasi. In fact, that 13 to 14 kilometer far from the Varanasi central. So you see that these images, that there is a shaft, this bell capital which is there, abacus. So abacus, you see that there is this particular round structure and there are spokes in this one. There, it is called as the Dharma Chakra. So let me write this one over here. This is called as the Asok Chakra or Dharma Chakra. So this one, Asok Chakra, or also called as the Dharma Chakra. Then you see that there are animals in between these chakra, and since it is a 3D structure, so it is not visible over here, but overall there would be 4 Asok chakras in this particular Sarnath pillar, and in between 2 Asok chakras there is an animal. So we will be writing the name of those animals particularly in this one because it is important from the exam perspective. And then this crowning animal, as you can see that it is a lion, and there are 4 back-to-back lines. Then, so 4 back-to-back lines. But if I ask you a question, when you go to Sarnath, then when you go to Sarnath, when you see this particular pillar, what you see from the front? What you see from the front at the top? Give me your answers. Send your answers. So what you see from that when you go to Sarnath, when you see this pillar, what you see from the front at the top? Then, so top pe kya dekhte ho? What? How many what you see at the top? So this is one question. I will not reveal that where it was asked, but it is important. Okay, Abhinav. Abhinav has said 3 lines. Dipansi, emblem, good. Ankit, 2 lines. Prashant, 3 lines. Yes, for this only I asked. This is asked in interview this year only, and one of my student, and he was scolded by the interview board also. That he was scolded by the interview board also. 3 loins you see. You don't see 2, you see 3. Then once there are 4 back-to-back structures, so 2 loins you will see in this direction, and 1 would be at the front. Then, so 3 loins you'd be see, and you will not be able to see the loin at the back. So Abhinav, you are correct. Archana, Aman, Akash, Subham, everybody is correct. So this kind of awareness must be there in your mind. While you are giving the interviews, this type of the awareness must be there. It's not just about that fact mugging, but also being aware, observing the things. So very good that many of you then. So 4 lines to dikh hi nahi sakte na. That's what I use in the beginning, this expression I used in the beginning, that it's a 3D structure, but otherwise we cannot see 3D. Then नहीं तो पीछे का भी दिख जाता. Then, so that kind of broader eyesight has not been given to us कि पीछे का भी देख ले. So these 3, as you can see that there is a 1 here, there is a 1 here, there is a 1 here. So though not fully, but you are able to see 3. So 3 loins, and the question which is asked in the prelims examination, the crowning animal of a particular pillar. So in case of the Mauryan pillars, you need to remember the crowning animals. So in exam, suppose they can ask you that what is the crowning animal of the Sarnath? So you'll be writing lion. But the crowning animal used to change in other places. So very first one, this Sarnath pillar, and you write Asok Chakra, I hope you have mentioned. Now, ek aur cheez likho, that you write in this one, in between the Asok Chakras of Abacus, in between the Asok Chakras of Abacus, 4 animal images were created. Images of 4 animals were created. Images of 4 animals were created. And I'm writing these animals. I'll give you formula also, that how you'll be remembering this one. Then, so these 4 animals which are there. So as you can see that this is a clockwise direction from here. If I go this way, so this is a clockwise direction, and in clockwise direction, this is bull. Then, so the first animal is bull. Then second animal is horse. Third animal is elephant. And fourth animal again lion. So on the abacus also you will find 1 lion. Then, so bull, horse, elephant and lion, and the formula to remember this one, is in clockwise direction you have BHEL, Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited. Then, so this kind of mnemonics you will have to create to mug up the facts in the art and culture section. And many other subjects also, it could be useful in many other subjects also if you know how to create the mnemonics. Wherever it would be possible from my side, I will be giving you the mnemonics, but it's not possible all the time. So 4 animals image were created. Then you write in clockwise direction, bull, horse, elephant and lion. Bull, horse, elephant and lion. Then further you mention, I hope you have written. So let's look at the next example. I'm just moving the page. Rampurva capital. So Sarnath, you have written the state UP. It's closer to Varanasi. Rampurva is in Bihar. So please write Rampurva capital Bihar. And this you can see that in this Rampurva capital there is a bull. So crowning animal, you write this place Bihar, and then you write the crowning animal is bull. Crowning animal is bull. And see that this image which I have taken, this is from the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Okay? These all symbols are present over there in the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Okay? So, but originally it is from the Rampurva. Okay? So Rampurva, and it has a bull capital, jiska horn kisi ne kha liya. So crowning animal, you must remember. I hope you have written this one. It's from Bihar. Another one from the Bihar, Loria Nandangad pillar. So you write Lauria Nandangad. Let me erase these things which are there. Lauria Nandangad pillar. This is also in Bihar. This is also from the Bihar, and in this one crowning single animal, single lion. Okay? Not 2, 3, but single one. So there is also from Bihar, Lauria Nandangad. And then one more example, Sankisa pillar. So Sankisa pillar, it's from UP. You can write, this one is from UP. And यहाँ पे भी elephant का trunk गायब है. But it's the only pillar of Mauryas where crowning animal is elephant. Crowning animal is elephant. संकीसा पिलर. क्राउनिंग का मतलब टॉप. क्राउन कहाँ होता है? यहाँ पे. ठीक है? So crowning animal means that the animal on the top. That's the meaning. Lauria is in Bihar and Sankisa is UP. Done? So let's begin with the next one, which is, so I think that I will take up the pottery and then sculpture first. ठीक है? स्तूपा last में रखते हैं. बड़ा topic है that I'll take up after the break. So let's move to the next one, that is the pottery. Mauryan sculpture. So Mauryan sculpture. And so let's begin with the Mauryan sculpture first. See, you guys, the image was for so many minutes on the board. I don't know where you were looking at. Do I look too smart today that you guys are looking at me only, not on the board? Thank you for the compliments. So, you write Mauryan sculpture. Yeah, I knew this is what may happen. And irony of this year, that this online year, लड़कों का लक बड़ा खराब रहा. You know why? You ponder over why I should say this thing, that लड़कों का लक बड़ा खराब रहा. अभी चल रहा है. Until and unless the offline classes are there, you guys are in the zone of that bad luck. So, Mauryan sculpture. Now listen. So, I hope you understand that what is sculpture. In previous class also we discussed about the culture. Sculpture, not culture. So sculpture, it's a piece of imagination. It's a kind of idol. It's an idol only, but it's a piece of 3D piece of imagination. Then, so now, when it comes to the Maurya period, we need to know about the sculptures of the Maurya period, how they were created, whose image was created, then, and some associated concepts with these sculptures. So generally what goes into the mind, generally what goes into the mind that what we discussed at this point of time. So I just forgot. I was looking at your comments then. So people think that sculptures would be related to the Buddhism then, or Buddha's image is going to be created at this point of time. Then because Asoka's life was more of Buddhism, less of anything else then, so it was more of Buddhism. So this concept does not apply over here in the sculpture. The surprising thing in the Mauryan period is there were no sculptures of the Buddha. Though they were the ardent followers of the Buddhism, but they did not created the sculptures of Buddha. So why they did not created sculptures of Buddha? Listen, because that sculptures of Buddha, you will be reading in the religion and philosophy. That topic is the second topic after this one. So in religion and philosophy, initially when Buddhism came to picture, Buddhism did not believe in the idol worship. When it was asked to the Buddha that after your death or after you are gone, so should we worship you in an idol form? Buddha was against it. He said that no, I am a human being just like you. Then I have acquired some different type of knowledge, different type of insight, but it does not mean that you will worship me as a god. So he admonished this, and then he forbade that there must not be idol worship of his image. Then, so going by the tradition, till this point of time, there were many developments in the Buddhism. Then many developments in Buddhism happened, but Asoka wanted to preserve the original things related to the Buddhism, and as per the saying of the Buddha, that there would be no idols of the Buddha. So that's why at this point of time, though he's follower of the Buddhism, but he did not created images of the Buddha. Then, so tenets of the Buddhism, initial tenets or very orthodox tenets of the Buddhism was followed till this point of time. So these all developments we would be quoting in the religion and philosophy, where I would be talking about those Buddhist councils and development in those Buddhist councils. There I will be mentioning that what was the development related to Buddhism in the Buddhist council, third Buddhist council, which was held under the patronage of Asoka. So if Buddha's image is not created in the Maurya period, so whose image they created in the sculpture? That is a question. Then, so they created image of the folk god and goddess. Folk god and goddess. And who are these folk god and folk goddess? So these folk god and folk goddess, they were known as Yaksh and Yakshini. Yaksh and Yakshini. So these folk gods were Yaksh and Yakshini. Then, so I hope that many of you must be hearing this name for the first time, listening this, that you're hearing this name for the first time, but many of you must have come across this name also. So who are these Yaksh and Yaksh? What is the meaning of the folk over here? Then folk means that in a regional culture of India. Then, so in a regional culture of India, there are gods and goddesses, n number of gods and goddesses. Then, and even till this point of time, though we call these folk and folk goddesses are Yaksh and Yakshini, but there are many form of the goddesses and many form of the gods all over India in the different pockets of this country. And there are different names also. Then, so in a particular village, for example, every village has their own deity. Then every village has their own deity, their own sacred places. Then, and moreover, many amusing things happened at the time of the, when these corona kind of thing began, and many amusing from the northern part of the country and central India. I was looking at the paper, so ladies are going to offer something to the, that they are cooking some kind of prasad outside in the open, close to the rivers, and then they're offering it to the goddess, and they named this goddess Corona goddess. Then, so, and then you have a MP who has his own version of Go Corona Go. Then, so no Corona no. So many, not only this kind of religious concepts are there, but many a times it seems to be very funny. So in every village, town, and then hinterland of India, you will see that some kind of god and goddess concept. So generally we say them that folk god or folk goddess. Then, so folk god or folk goddess, yes, Bhuvan, you have written Bhuvana, you have written that right one. Spirit, then, so they are kind of different type of spirits then. And yes, you are right that there are different types of the spirit then. That one name, one spirit then can be used in a different way. For example, that I can see that today's you guys have a different kind of spirit to learn the art and culture. But many a times that when there is a night, there is a different kind of spirit, then only the bottle will change. And, and then what Bhuvana has said, there is a different kind of spirit also. Then, so spirits has many versions. Same way, these folks, gods and goddesses has many versions. Then, so Yaksh and Yakshini. Then, so Yaksh and Yakshini, Yaksh was the folk god and Yakshini was the folk goddess. And ESSV has very rightly mentioned, and Divyansu has also rightly mentioned, that Yaksh asked question from Yudhishthir. Yes, so Yaksh asked question from Yudhishthir in the Mahabharata. I hope you know that you have seen, and in Corona beginning, that पहले तो रामायण चलाया, फिर उसके बाद दिन महाभारत चला दिया. Then पहले रामायण इसलिए चलाया कि जल्दी खत्म हो जाएगा कोरोना. जब लगा कि नहीं खत्म होगा तो महाभारत चला दिया. Mahabharata, then that's a great battle of this country, which will continue, which continued, still continuing. So you must have seen at that point of time these all episodes of the Yaksh. Then, so Yaksh is the folk god. Then he is a folk god and Yakshini was the folk goddess. Then, so Yakshini was the folk goddess. So their images were created during this point of time. And moreover, these Yaksh and Yakshini, when we talk about the relevance of these people in the Indian mythology, or that not only mythology but in Indian history, they are one common thread all over India. When we talk about that, some of the common threads all over India, common threads of the culture all over India, so there is a one thing which binds, that is the presence of so many Devi and Devata temples. Then, so Devi and Devata temples, or Yaksh and Yakshini temple, you can say. So Yaksh and Yakshini, they were not only worshipped in Hinduism, but at that point of time, they were worshipped in Buddhism also. They were a respected figure in the Buddhism. They were a respected figure in the Jainism also. So for example, that in Hinduism, Yakshini was worshipped in a specific kind of puja, a very special puja was there. Name of this puja was the Sapta Matrika Puja. I'll be writing these all. Please listen to this. So Yakshini was worshipped in the Sapta Matrika Puja. Basically, what is Sapta? Sapta means 7. So 7 Yakshini worship was very much prevalent in the Hinduism during the time of the Mauryas. Then in Jainism, there were 24 Yakshinis who were worshipped. And while you will be reading the religion and philosophy, so there you will be reading about that I will be quoting 24 Tirthankars. The last one was the Vardhaman Mahavir. So in Jainism, there is a concept of the Tirthankar, and total 24 Tirthankars were there in the Jainism. So same way, they also worship 24 Yakshinis. Then Hinduism में पूजा है, Buddhism में पूजा है, then in Jainism also they are worshipped. Moreover, the Yakshini worship was prevalent all over India. There is a one great epic of the Tamil Nadu in Tamil language, and name of this great epic of the Tamil is Silappatikaram. Even the Yakshini worship is also mentioned in the Silappatikaram. So it's a one binding thing in the Indian culture. It was a binding thing in the Indian culture at that point of time during the Mauryas. Then, so that's how they created Yaksh and Yakshini's sculptures. Please mention. So, you write, at this point of time, images of Yaksh and Yakshini were created. Images of Yaksh and Yakshini, and in brackets you can write folk god and goddess. Yaksh and Yakshini were created, folk god and goddess. Further mention. They were respected figures. They were respected figures in all the religions. In all the religions of that time. Respected figures in all the religions of that time. Full stop. Then you write, for example, there was concept of 24 Yakshinis in Jainism. Concept of 24 Yakshini in Jainism. 24 Yakshini in Jainism. Then further, in Hinduism, there is a reference of Yaksh. There is a reference of Yaksh in Mahabharat. In Mahabharat. In Hinduism, there is a reference of Yaksh in Mahabharat. And Sapta Matrika Puja. You can see the spelling here. And Sapta, just 1 minute. Matrika Puja. And in bracket you write, worship of 7 Yakshini. Worship of 7 Yakshini. So, Sapta Matrika Puja was quite popular. Or worship of 7 Yakshini was quite popular. Then we have not talked about the instances in Buddhism. Now listen. So when it comes to the Buddhism, that figures of the Yaksh and Yakshini, so they created the images of the Yaksh and Yakshini many places, but more importantly they were stuck to the Yakshini images. Then, so Buddhist tradition also respects Yakshini, and they created the images of the Yakshini on the gateways of the stupas. Then, so very often they created images, and here image is synonymous to the sculpture. That sculpture is what? It's a type of an image. Painting is a what? It's a type of an image. So I'm using the broader term images. Then, so images of Yakshini were created on the gateways of the stupas, and moreover, why they were creating it on the gateways of the stupas, they always considered that an image of a Yakshini is a very auspicious symbol in the Buddhism. So you write that in Buddhism, images of both Yaksh and Yakshini were created. Both Yaksh and Yakshini were created. Full stop. Particularly, the image of Yakshini, on the gateways of stupa, was considered as very auspicious. For example, so this example also you must remember in full detail, and here I can say that I have a feeling this year or that year there would be a question from the Yakshini, particularly the one which I'm going to mention. So for example, Sal Bhanjika Yakshini. For example, Sal Bhanjika Yakshini. Sal Bhanjika Yakshini. I'll explain that. What is this Yakshini image? It's an image of a Yakshini, but it is named as the Sal Bhanjika Yakshini. So let me show you the image. Please write first and then I'll show you the image. So please look at the image. Just 1 minute, I hope. So this is one example we'll be writing later, but first you look at this one, Salbhanjika Yakshini. Then, so as you can see in the image that there is this figure of the Yakshini, then that the folk goddess is there, but she's touching a plant. Then as you can see that she's touching a plant, then this is a kind of a plant, and this plant is a salt tree. Okay? She is with one hand, she is touching the salt tree. And salt tree is considered as very auspicious in all the religions of India. Then that all the religions, Oriental religions, I'll say, that Oriental religions meaning that which emerged in this subcontinent, like Hinduism, Jainism and Buddhism. Then, and in fact that if you go and ask in your family, there must be a tradition in your family that somewhere down that in once there is an occasion in that every year there is a one occasion, I exactly don't remember what is the name of the occasion. On that occasion, generally the people cook outside, and this is a full moon day. On that day, the cooking happens outside and under a salt tree or some other type of tree also. I think salt tree and then tree of the this one more such tree is there, but they generally what they do, they cook under this salt tree. Then I have seen at my home also, so it is very quite popular. Then and sal tree is considered as very auspicious in all the three religions which emerged in this subcontinent. Then so meaning of this Salbhanjika Yakshini is the Yakshini who is holding a branch of the salt tree. You can mention, अब जहां पे लिखा है वहां पे फिर वापस लिखो. In this one you write Yakshini holding a branch of salt tree. Yakshini holding a branch of salt tree. Oh, Silapatikaram also I will mention, don't worry. I will be writing, I know that there would be some key and technical words. Please have patience little bit. Then I would be mentioning, if I am not mentioning, so you may not find it in the other classes. I am generally more aware about these things, that when I am teaching you a technical subject, so I would be mentioning these all things. And once the topic is over, then if I am not mentioning, so then you could be little impatient. But patience, this exam needs patience. Then you all need to learn this art of the patience. Then, so Salbhanjika Yakshini holding a branch of the salt tree. Then next one. So this is one part that in Buddhism it is considered as very auspicious, that you got to know. Then further you mention that Yakshini worship was a pan-India phenomenon. Yakshini worship was a pan-India phenomenon. Yakshini worship was a pan-India phenomenon. Pan-India phenomenon. And at that time, Yakshini worship, or not at that time Kaddo, you write Yakshini pan-India phenomenon, and Yakshini worship is also mentioned in Tamil epic. Silapatikaram. In Tamil epic, Silapatikaram. Done? Tamil epic Silapatikaram. Then some other examples also. this example which we wrote that was related to Buddhism, but otherwise that there are some images which are still surviving, some of the Yakshini images which are still there at some museum or some government institutions. So you write examples of some popular Yakshinis. So then one more you write Didarganj Yakshini. Didarganj Yakshini. Didarganj is in Bihar, closer to Patna. So there was one image which was found from this place. That is one example. And let's look at the image. This is Didarganj Yakshini. So I think it is there in the Patna Museum. So Didarganj Yakshini. Salbhanjika already I have shown to you. Then there is a Salbhanjika of Sanchi. Sanchi Stupa in Madhya Pradesh. So here you see that there is a one more image of the Salbhanjika Yakshini, and she is also the different type of the image, but she is also holding a sal tree. Then so there is a tree and then she is holding the branch, and this is on the gateway of the stupa. So this one is on the gateway of the stupa. Salbhanjika of Sanchi. And then Yaksh example you write Yaksh of just 1 minute of Parkham. Yaksh of Parkham. This is also from MP. Yaksh of Parkham, MP, Madhya Pradesh. It's closer to Gwalior. So this is all about the sculpture during the Maurya period. एक और चीज देख लेते हैं, and then after the last topic of the class would be the stupa, which is going to be a very elaborate. So let's move to the Mauryan pottery. Please mention Mauryan pottery. Mauryan pottery. So in Indus Valley civilization, we have seen the pottery. Then, so Indus Valley civilization, we have seen the pottery, and here also we will talk about the pottery. So listen, when it comes to the pottery during the Maurya period, then so Maurya period pottery, it was highly polished, and it was the climax of the pottery making. Try to understand that Maurya age pottery was the climax of the pottery making. And whenever I say one art form, it's climax. Then so climax meaning that highest stage. Then कि उस समय का सबसे अच्छा. Then so the best of that time. So it was the climax of the pottery making. So what is that which made it the highest level or highest best of the pottery? So it's basically there was a little bit of change in the technique of making the pottery. Then so try to understand this technique, that little bit of change in making the pottery, and that's how they were able to create a very high level pottery which was highly polished. So listen, what was this change in the technique? They started using levitation methods. And what is this levitation method? It's the word may seem difficult to you, but it's an easier one. Levitation is basically what was that they started to filter the soil. You create a pottery with a soil, you know it then, and then with the clay. So they started to filter the clay, or they started to filter the soil. Why they are filtering the soil? Listen, that while you are taking a little bit of lump of a clay and then you start making a pottery. So what if you have not filtered it? So that lump may have, that lump of the clay or that particular amount of the clay may have coarse grains. Then it may have coarse grains. Then Hindi में क्या बोलते हो coarse grains को? Concord. Then that's what is the Hindi word for the same, concord. So मिट्टी के अंदर concord भी होगा, and that's what we say that coarse grain. So when you are making a pottery from the soil which is not filtered, so it will have coarse grain and it will give a rough outlook to the, suppose that pottery is created and this pottery is created, and it will create a rough outlook. There would be a concord, these all places. So it would be a rough kind of pottery. Then, which was in the case of the Indus Valley also, that it would be a rough kind of pottery. And moreover, in a rough kind of pottery, what you do, how you particularly polish a particular pottery. Suppose this is a pottery, so you take, nowadays you must have seen in your houses that how these people who are coming to paint your houses or do the furniture, how they polish. They take a particular kind of paper, and there is a scrub kind of paper, they start rubbing it on it. Then, so when you are rubbing on this particular structure this way, so there is an obstruction all the places. It means that it would not be highly polished. In fact, some places it could be polished, some places it's altogether not at all polished. Then, so that was the problem with all the potteries which were created in the previous time. So this point of time when they have filtered the soil, filtered the clay, so it means that now the coarse grain would be removed from that and there is a fine particle clay. Now you can create a pottery which can be highly polished. Another thing that you need to understand, समझना इसको. When you are creating a pottery, and I hope all of you must have seen that how pottery is created. Pottery is created on a wheel. एक चक्का होता है, ठीक है, and on that wheel only the pottery is created. What they do, that there is a wheel, then in the middle of the wheel they will put a lump of the clay, and now with one hand they will be kind of that running the wheel, and one hand will go inside the lump of the clay. So they are running the wheel and the inside hand is the one which shapes the particular pottery, then which shapes the particular pottery. So accordingly they create the shape. Now at this point of time, earlier, पहले का जान लो, when there was no filtered soil, so they were running the wheel slowly, धीरे से चलाते थे. तेज चलाएंगे तो क्या होगा? If they are running the wheel fast, so the concord which is there, the coarse grain which is there, it will cut your hand. It will cut your hand. So there was this automatic limitation on the people that they cannot run the wheel very fast. Now since you have removed all the concord, all the coarse grain from the clay, now you can run the wheel very fast and there would be no cut mark in your hand. Then, so you can run the wheel. अब इसका benefit क्या है? That running the wheel very fast, when you run the wheel very fast, so the pottery would be thin and smooth. Then, so it would be thin and smooth. It will not be uneven. So it would be thin and smooth, and that will also particularly that it will favor the polishing of the pottery. I hope you understood. I have tried to make you understand through a kind of imagination. Then आसान तो ये होता कि कोई YouTube video दिखा देते, but that would be another kind of promotion. So I hope that the way I wanted you to imagine, you have imagined that what are the benefits of this one, and that's how this pottery was created. Then, so Mauryan pottery, so sandpaper, yes, you guys are very right that sandpaper was used. So एक बार इसमें लिखो, just 1 minute, give me a minute. So you write, the characteristic pottery of the Mauryan period, the characteristic pottery of the Mauryan period was known as Nadan black, was known as Nadan black polished ware. Nadan black polished ware. Nadan black polished ware. Generally हम लोग NBPW बोलते हैं इसको, ठीक है? So NBPW. So the characteristic pottery of the Mauryan period was Nadan black polished ware. Then you write, it was created with filtered soil or filtered clay It was created with filtered clay on a fast running wheel. On a fast running wheel. On a fast running wheel. As such, it was highly even. As such, it was highly even and polished. Highly even and polished. As such, it was highly even and polished. Full stop. Highly even and polished. Then further you mention. It was the climax of pottery making. It was the climax of pottery making. Climax of pottery making. It was the climax of pottery making. As you can see that this black color pottery. This is what we call northern black polished ware. So this black color pottery. There's one more image. So different designs were also created, not just the one type, but different designs were also created. So this was the pottery of the modern period. So listen, I'll give you just 5-minute break because the stupa is the big topic. It's 6:49, 6:55 we will start. It's only 5-minute break. We are going to see the stupa. Okay? So let's begin with the next topic, stupa. So first I will have to tell you the origin of the stupa and a few questions for you. That what is the meaning of the stupa, if you know, and but you can answer that which particular period can be said to be the origin period of the stupa structure, or at this point of time stupa emerged. So when stupa emerged? Did it emerge in the Mauryan time? Did it emerge before the Mauryan time? And did it emerge before Mauryan time? So then when? When it comes to the stupa, so stupa is particularly, it is also a Sanskrit word. Then stupa is also a Sanskrit word, and meaning of this Sanskrit word is heap of sand. So meaning of this word is a heap of sand. It is a Sanskrit word and meaning of this was heap of sand, basically in this way. So this is what is heap of sand. Now, when it comes to the stupa structure, as you have seen that stupas are only associated with the Buddhism, but it's not just associated with the Buddhism. This is what we see in the common culture, that when we go to some places related to Buddhism, so we do see stupa. But the common culture is more of a stupa associated with the Buddhism, but stupa did not emerge from the Buddhism. Try to understand the concept. This evolution thing is also very important. So please don't indulge into any kind of illogical conclusions right now. Then many a times it happens because you have not studied any part of the Buddhism and Jainism. So just on the basis of that one such thing which has come to your mind कि कहीं पढ़ा था कि ये बात थी तो उसके आधार पे question पूछ दिया. No. This is what I asked to you in the beginning of the class, that you will have to develop a little bit of patience. These are the topics which will become more clearer to you when there are many attached topics are complete. So if you just jump into a question mode that ki ye wala wo wala, then so you will never understand. Try to develop that patience, and moreover try to understand that what has been said here, and try to not only memorize that fact, but memorize with the concepts. Then, so listen, when it comes to the stupa, I'm not referring to anybody. This is just, I am saying that this is what is the requirement of this subject. And I'm not trying to frighten you that this is one of the most difficult subject, but I'm just trying to be very practical that this subject needs a little bit of more interest and then also a little bit of patience. So, sorry. So it emerged from the Vedic period. When it comes to the origin of the stupa, so it emerged from the Vedic period, and how it is, its evolution is there. Since you have not studied, that's what I am quoting time and again, that since you have not studied ancient and medieval history, so particularly ancient, so you have a little bit of no knowledge about this one. Some of you may have studied, but otherwise in classes it has not been conducted, so I know that you may not be aware about this thing. So when it comes to the Vedic period, in the Vedic period there is a one tradition. Then, and what is this tradition? That people were striving for the knowledge. Then, and there were some sages, some rishis who were striving for the knowledge. And what were the methods of this knowledge? So they were going to the long phases of the meditation. Then, so they were going into the long phases of meditation, and in long phases of meditation, they are not taking anything. They are just meditating in the open, and these sages or rishis of the Vedic period, they are meditating in the open. And as you know that human body can survive without food and these all for many days, then for good number of days. So these people have also discarded the food and they are meditating for a long period of time. So while they are meditating in the open, so what was happening that the sand comes from all the sides and it covers their body. Then, but these people were unaffected. And finally, one fine day, they announced that now their meditation is over. Their particular whatever the kind of communication they were trying to establish with the divine bodies, that is over. And now, when this is over, so they try sharing those experiences while being in the meditation with all the public. Then all the public who were there at that point of time, they felt a difference. They felt a difference in the person when he has not gone into the meditation and when he has come out of the meditation. So they started to respect those rishis and sages, and they always attributed that their knowledge, whatever kind of divine knowledge they do have, that's because of that stage of the meditation. And in this stage, they called it stupa stage of meditation. Stupa stage of meditation. And what is the stupa stage of meditation? Basically, body covered with heap of sand. Then, so body covered with heap of sand. So this is one part. Then what happened? This is how the tradition continued. When these great sages or saints, when they died, so their death happened. So after their cremation, they were cremated in the stupa shape. Then, so after suppose that they are burning the body. So after the burning the body, there was this kind of shape was created on their dead body or the place where they have been cremated. So this kind of shape was created. This was called as stupa. Then, so this is one thing. Then in Hinduism, even till this date, you can find this tradition is to be there. Now listen, I'm relating it with some of the traditions of the Hinduism at this point of time. So have you observed that anybody dying as a Hindu, then, and after his death, his body has been cremated, and after burning the body, everything has been done. After 24, 27 hours later on, what they do, that these people, family members, they go to the graveyard, that they go to that particular Shamshan Bhumi, and what they do, they collect some of the fragments of the bones and these all, that burnt body, and then they do a ritual at that place, which in Hindi, particularly in the northern belt, people call mitti lagana. Then, so what is this? This is done only by the family members. They do the mitti lagana. And what they do in this mitti lagana, they create a stupa shape, though in a cylindrical way, but they create a stupa shape this way. Then, and this stupa shape, and they also plant a tulsi. Then one basil plant is also planted. So this tradition continued in the Hinduism. It never went beyond that this is small stupa, cylindrical stupa to a very big structure. But in Buddhism, understand, when Buddha died, he was also from the same society. He was a Kshatriya. And by the time of his death, he was the one reformer in the Indian religious system. So when he died, so his followers, they considered that they said that he was the greatest of the sage of that time. So greatest of the sage, greatest of the rishi, greatest of the people, the greatest of the personalities of that time. So what they did, that when he died at his death place, they created a bigger stupa. So they created a bigger stupa, and this is how the tradition of the stupa in Buddhism continued. Moreover, when Asoka was the emperor, he accepted Buddhism. So after accepting Buddhism, he decided that he would be creating much bigger stupas on the remains of the Buddha. So if the followers of the Buddha have created little bigger stupa as compared to the other patriots in this country, now when Asoka is coming to power, he is accepting Buddhism, so he decided that he will create much bigger stupa. So in fact, that it is the Asoka who gave impetus to the stupa making structures. And I'll tell you that there is one reason that why Asoka did so later on, but first you write this part, that stupa is a Sanskrit word which means heap of sand, which means heap of sand. Its origin can be traced to Vedic ages. Its origin can be traced to Vedic ages, whereby the great sages, or rishis, great sages or rishis were cremated in stupa formations. Full stop. Then you write, after the death of Buddha, his followers also created a stupa formation on his relics. That is the remains of the body. So on his relics. Then after full stop, on his relics, change paragraph, and then you mention, when Asoka, change paragraph and then you mention, when Asoka accepted Buddhism, he decided to create 9 big stupas on remains of Buddha. 9 big stupas on remains of Buddha. 9 big stupas on remains of Buddha. So 9 big stupas on remains of Buddha. So now this is important, this is mentioned in your NCERT books also. So this is important. One fine year they may ask you that what are these initial 9 stupas or early 9 stupas. So whenever the question will come into the paper, they will be asking you early 9 stupas. Which all places early 9 stupas were situated? Then, or which all places these early 9 stupas were created? So these kind of question can come, and here that in this particular, that early 9 stupas, the name you will have to remember, but generally when I ask this question on the basis of logic, which all places you can suggest where Asoka may have created the stupa. So surprising is that Asoka created this stupa. Just wait 1 minute. Just wait 1 minute. थोड़ा सा मार दो आप इधर. Sorry for the disruption. There is a big fruit fly which is running after me. एक मिनट आप इधर कर दो. So you guys listen that what I was saying. So these 9 stupas, they may ask you about these 9 stupas then, and moreover, these places. So what I was saying to you, that generally the belief is that the places which were associated with the Buddha's life, then that more associated with the Buddha's life directly, these places could be there, but actually, except the place where Buddha died, these places, that other places are altogether, they are very new, and it may seem new to you. The names may seem new to you. So you have written that 9 big stupas on remains of Buddha. So please mention that these places. So which are? So you mention which are? Which are? So first, Alakap. Second, Ramagram. Third, Vithapid. Then fourth, Pava. Fifth, Pipalvina. Pipalvina. Sixth, Kapilavastu. Seventh, Kushinagar. Eighth, Vaishali. And ninth, Rajagir. So please write these 9 places. मच्छर का ढेर है. So these 9 places, the early stupas were created. Then so these 9 places, early stupas were created. Now, there is a request to you that कि कैसे लिखोगे अपने कॉपी में, इसलिए not about that so many disclaimers I have given in the today's class. So let me take a one page. What you'll be doing and how you'll be creating the things in your copy. So let me show you. Just give me a minute. Suppose this paper is there. Okay? I hope it is visible to you. So take a full A4 size paper and I'll be creating so many images then. So one side, that's 60% of the page, this side, there would be one image and there would be one image over here. There would be some small images also, but keep 65% or 70% of the paper for the stupa structure and then 30% of the for other structure. So this way you will be creating the structures. पेज ऐसे करके मत बनाना कि यहाँ पे स्तूपा बना लिया यहाँ पे ये बना लिया. There would be some comparisons then. So please make it in horizontal fashion. So I'm just going to create the structure of the stupa and you also create in a timely manner. So let's begin with this structure of the stupa. And labeling is very important, so you will be labeling it also. Please keep space for that. मैं परेशान हो गया हूँ. So please write the names of these all structures. This is Medhi. Labeling is equally important. Without that, this part is called as Anda. This part is Harmika. This is Yasti. Gateways are called as Toran. So this is Toran. If you want, you can write in the brackets, these are gateways. Then this is boundary wall, which is called as Vedika. So this is Vedika. Then this one is Pradakshina Path. I'm writing in capital letters, so there must not be any problem about the spelling. Pradakshina Path. So that one is Pradakshina Path. Then this one is relics of Buddha. Relics, this structure which I have created, relics of Buddha. Relics of Buddha. And these three discs which I have created, see that deliberately it is created in a way that top one is the small and lower one is the biggest. So these are called as Chhatri. Chhatri. All the three are called as Chhatri. उसका एसी चला देना, उसका एसी चलाइए दोनों साइड से, इधर वाला नहीं है क्या? So please create this diagram. So Vedika, in brackets you can write Vedika is a boundary wall, and Torana you please mention, that is gateway. Pradakshina Path, if you want to write the English version of that one, so let me write that here. I am writing here ambulatory pathway. If you want to write English version of the same, but otherwise rest of the terms you don't need to write any English term. कोई पंखा नहीं है क्या यहाँ पे? महक वहाँ पे बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया है, ठीक है, क्लास लेना मुश्किल हो रहा है, नाक में घुस रहा है. So please mention. Torana is gateway. So I'm giving a little bit of time. There is a little bit of flare up here. Insects have taken over the place. So it is yasti. So let me write it clearly. It is yasti. Y. It is written as a Y. Now it's fine. Yasti. Then, so this is all about this is structure. Do we have class tomorrow? I just want asking you that do you have class tomorrow? Let me check that if we do have class tomorrow. Yes, we do have class tomorrow. Okay. You guys give me 5 minutes. One insect has bitten me. So listen, that I'm not able to continue at this point of time. One insect has bitten me just in front of you. And I'm in a little bit of pain, and then there is a poisonous sensation over here, and then one more part. So I'm just saving this image. Tomorrow we will continue with the same. I may not be able to continue at the same point of time. I'll have to see something, to apply something on the part. So I'm very sorry for this one. I'll have to cut class today over here only. Tomorrow we'll continue with the same. So I'll save this image and we'll further start with the same topic. Thank you.